If you run a business, however big or small, and sometimes wonder whether you're doing things the hard way or the right way, then you're in the right place. We are two business owners who choose to sit around the same table, share our mistakes, challenge each other, and keep learning. We are two ordinary blokes in business, and this is our journey to 1 million. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, Martin. I'm still suffering from that croaky throat, but I'm feeling the pressure this morning, Martin.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, why is that?
Well,
The pressure of entertaining three people on a podcast.
3 now, is it? Who have we paid to listen? No, I'm feeling the pressure with your intro. It's like excellent now. I'm still struggling with my outro, so I am under pressure.
Well, you can see that I was reading it, John, so...
It looked so natural. It sounded so natural for the listener.
Right. Without harping on about that too much, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I think, first of all, we should let the listeners know that you made me get up really early on a Sunday morning.
I'm not sure that I said Sunday morning, not too early, and at 6:58 or something, you sent me a text saying 7:15 question mark. Like, that's early. But we're here. We're here and ready to rock.
We're here.
Ready to entertain the masses or molasses.
That's not a technical presentation. I didn't get the memo about a technical presentation about molasses and feeds and everything. Or are we going to feed the minds of our listeners?
Well, I don't know how to answer that, John. What subjects are we talking about today?
Well, I will go back to feeding the mind of the listener, because you've never actually admitted, Martin, that you do listen to these podcasts, but quite clearly, I actually started listening to a second podcast yesterday.
My goodness, John.
Yeah, whilst having a coffee, having done a walk and listening to the last 2 episodes of our podcast. And actually, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about, and this sounds awful, doesn't it? But one of the things I've really enjoyed about the podcast is I'm actually thinking about using it as a training aid for our induction process for people, because I think actually what it's doing, it's setting the scene about, as two owners, what we want to achieve, and it's a nice intro into the mindset of running a business. And we are both small family businesses, but I actually think there's some really good stuff in there that I am, so you can comment actually if you wish, on actually sort of incorporating the podcast into our training sort of plan. But I'd like to think, I would like to hear from listeners actually if they found it interesting to listen back to some points, and actually if it's made any changes in their business sort of structure. That's a bit deep, isn't it, for a Sunday morning? But do you know what I mean, Martin?
You've got my mind going already, John. It's not ready to wake up yet. I think that's not an implausible or a silly idea, really. I think that's yeah, I quite like that. I mean, I know that strangely, and this is I think this is quite weird, but I know that James, my son, and also Heather listen to the podcast, which I think is quite weird. But James really enjoys it, and I think he probably, if he wasn't getting any insight from it, I don't think he would persevere. And I think the same is true of Heather. So I think your point in principle actually has legs. I think, when we have relaxed chats like this, I think it gives people an insight into what we're thinking and how we operate, and I think so. That's not a wholly silly idea, John.
Well, thank you, Martin. Can I take that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Could Heather give it a bit of a vote for Kate, because I don't think she's listened to it.
Well, you probably talk to Kate normally, whereas like Heather just has to listen to a podcast to know what's going on in my head.
Oh, dear go. So there we go. So I managed to eat some frogs this week, Martin.
Sounds lovely.
Frogs off the A list of the list of your to-do list. So I was really chuffed with that.
Okay, and what were they?
Oh, don't ask me that. Can't remember. Moved on. One was as part of our journey to 1 million and scaling. One of the things that we've been working on is identifying our single points of failure. So I've actually addressed one of those, which I'm really pleased about. That got the brain going. And as you quite rightly sort of said in a number of podcasts, I got my assistant Chatty to be helping me with my RACI form. So we've actually been looking at
Explain what your RACI form is.
Oh, blimey, Martin! It is Sunday morning. People won't want to know about that on a Sunday morning. But
you brought it up.
Oh well, I'll have to send an invoice for that because I think this is moving into professional consultancy. Do you think? Are we VAT registered?
We just need to know. We just need to understand what a RACI form is. That's all, John.
I'm stalling for time trying to think. So I get it right. Anyway, a mentoring warning, everybody. It's who's responsible, who's accountable, who is doing a supporting role, and who maybe need to be informed or consulted. So I suppose what that works out into is, in the world of John, and probably people, who are a similar sort of size, or maybe where the principal's done all of it and that principal's trying to delegate some roles, is actually thinking about who is responsible for that task, so that people have a clear definition: who is responsible, who's overall accountable, who needs to be kept informed, and stuff like that. And I think it probably links into, you've probably done it, I'd imagine you have, because you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure on a podcast, that you were having a chat to your team and just reminding them about responsibilities and who is responsible for jobs. So it sort of fits into that. But actually, where it really helped me is...
Sorry, John, I just you're right, and we did that because it wasn't clear, and just to give a really good example of why that is necessary is because if it isn't clear and one person thinks it's another person's responsibility and that other person thinks it's the first person's responsibility, then clearly there's a point of failure where someone says, oh, well, I thought it was them, they thought it was them. It doesn't get done. So it's really important to be very clear on what's expected from each role in the business.
Yeah, and the podcast is about our journey to 1 million, and this is a big step in actually defining that responsibility. And actually, in that journey of doing this, I think I'd alluded to that one of our next hires will be sort of more admin. I needed to get clarification in my mind where that admin was going to be. So this is back into people again, I suppose, isn't it? People and organisation. But what is it going to be? And then in order to get that whole process right, what's it be? What is it going to be? What does it look like? What roles will they be doing? Because, that's going to shape the advert that we, put online, so that we can actually then start benchmarking, measuring, looking for candidates that sort of fit that role. So yeah, it was and I did as the Eat the Frog book said. I just dedicated some time. I ignored the phone. I told my sort of colleagues that, this is, I'm going to be doing some admin today, and you might not hear from me, because I just made myself concentrate on it. So
get it done.
Hey, we've done that podcast, haven't we?
We have. Fantastic. Sometimes that's what you got to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just, that's the whole Eat the Frog principle.
And I think that's what I was thinking about yesterday, pre my, Martin, yesterday, the sun was shining. I'd had a lovely walk. And I got to I got to the avenue in West Bridgeford. Most people call it in High Street, but in West Bridgeford it's called the Avenue. So I think that's so the bars can charge more money. And I sat there waiting for Kate, and I had a coffee. And Kate turned up, and I had a lager. I had a lager for breakfast yesterday, Martin. It was lovely. It was beautiful. The second one set me off really well.
Just remind me where this is going, John.
Don't know. That was probably it. Thank you for keeping me on track, Martin. Yeah, so that got me thinking that actually when you then go and listen back to the podcast, you can understand why you're doing what you're doing and how it actually fits into the, the reasons why you're trying to scale and stuff like that. And I think,
helps you focus.
I'm looking at things differently now than what I would have done 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, and I think that's the thing for the listener is, keep reflecting. The power of reflection, power of growth.
Yeah. Well, I think that leads into the whole thing is, is becoming that person that, you don't just make more sales, grow a business, have more people, and then you've got a bigger business. You have to be the person that is capable of growing that business, of keeping those people and directing those people and leading those people. So it's as much about, and I've harped on about this quite a lot, but it's as much about who you are on that journey and how you develop as to how your business does with you. Because essentially the business, I find this really fascinating as well. Businesses tend to follow personality suit when they're quite small. So the leader of the business or the owner of the business tends, not always on purpose, but tends to employ people similar to themselves. And then you get this culture growing up and they're all quite, all the employees have this certain trait, and then you get a personality to the business, what we would call a culture. And that, I think, grows as the business grows. And I think so then your ability to change as a leader shows that you can shape the business and the people within it to where you want it to be.
And I think that's interesting. And I think that's where I probably got into is the podcast a good idea to share with our own staff? Because I think it lets them into the mindset of where John's come from over the last umpteen years.
Yeah.
But also it probably reminds them as we grow and actually the staff have changed. So I take exactly on board what you just said. When John was growing, when John was a lifestyle business, it was these types of people. But actually now we did make our hire on Friday afternoon.
Well done.
So, excuse me. But the hire now is Dave's team. Dave has been involved in every single one of those team members now, and actually it's almost like handing over the baton, isn't it? That actually these are your guys, they're our guys because they're part of our family, our Greener Gardens family, but they are guys that he is going to lead and nurture and encourage and develop. But actually my job now, I keep saying, is the checking job, but actually it's actually to share the new vision and the new culture. And I think through the podcast people will understand more of that because they won't have that time with me in the van, doing some cultural work. And I
think you'll need to be careful on your edit. So making sure you get the key parts because, they don't want us laughing a lot and coughing all the time.
I'm sorry about that, Martin. But...
No, that's all right. But in really, I mean, that you do need to, you'll need to obviously make that edit quite sharp, and because there's more hours than I care to imagine of our harping on about business. So I think as long as you keep it sharp and interesting, then I think that's a great idea.
Maybe you could do a two blokes training module, Martin, in your spare time.
Yeah, of which I've got loads.
We could invoice for that, couldn't we?
It's very, very expensive. That's why I listen back to the podcast, because I'm editing it.
I'll do that.
That's why I leave everything in.
Oh, dear. Anyway, so back to the... yes, there we go.
Back to the what, John? What am I doing?
I don't know. So I've eaten my frogs. What have you been doing? I know we got the things to talk about, but what have you been doing this week?
Yeah, well, I've been I've actually been relying heavily on my team this week, and it's not been problem free, but they've been dealing with those problems really, really well, and I've been really pleased. I think that's, as we go on, I can see, as people grow through adversity, and they're growing all the time, which I'm really, really pleased about. I don't like the adversity that they have to go through, but you can't have one without the other. And I think one of the things I've been thinking about recently as well is getting in our industry, which is quite specific. It's multiple visits to different stops each day. And there's a huge amount of variables in what we do. So, for example, traffic, size of property, whether someone's in or not, and whether you have a conversation with them. So to actually schedule the right amount of jobs on a day can be quite testing. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong. And I think for me this week, it's been about just reflecting. I've not done anything about it, but trying to work out how to do that, because we don't want to grind our team into the ground by any means. We want to be fair, and we want to be able to continue at a certain level. Am I making any sense at all? But we also don't want to be too light on their workload. So workload, that's what it's about.
Okay.
Getting the right workload so that they're being able to produce the necessary revenue to cover the costs and make profit in the right time allowed, without being too onerous and them having to work overtime or finishing early. And I thought that's an eternal struggle for us. Over to you, John, for the answers.
I will try and do my best for the listener, actually. Well, I'll try. I'll try and add something to it. Whether it's
have a small area, because it's a lot easier.
Well, yes. I was accused of only using 3 litres of fuel
in 2025.
Throw the tarpaulin over my area because that avoids the snow. I think with what we do in lawn care, and actually what every business does, we're all selling time. Whether you're a mechanic, it's going to take you X amount of time to service that vehicle. Whether you're a plumber, it's going to take you X amount of time to, install a central heating system. So for us,
or Marks and Spencers,
or Marks and Spencers. Where's that one come from?
You said every business is selling time.
Oh,
so I'm just seeing how that relates to Marks and Spencers.
Okay, well, you got me there then. I'll have a little cough on that one. So actually,
every service business is
every service.
Yeah, I get
Martin.
that. Yeah,
I am suffering with allergy. So I think for us, I think we've cracked it for what we call standard treatments, your regular sort of service calls. Where we haven't quite cracked it is what we don't know is how long a mechanical treatment like lawn scarification or aeration is going to be, because there's more things in there that I suppose we're there for a longer time. And there's more things like, if it's square, then it's quite easy to do a lawn that's sort of square. If it's 100 square meter lawn and it's 100 square meter lawn, that's great. If it's 100 square meter lawn, but they're 10 square meter lawns, that's a lot more difficult and that consumes more time. So I think you have to sort of bear that in mind on the survey side and sort of understand all that and try and build it into your scheduling. All of our scheduling is based on time. It's not, and I suppose it's based on the lawn size, because the lawn size, there's a little algorithm there that sort of links it to time. But it is very difficult to do. I think we have actually cracked it on the seasonal treatments and stuff like that. And I think our other thing that I've always played in my own mind is how many calls or how many visits can you put on a technician on a day? Because what you want to do is that when they walk onto their last call, they're doing it to exactly the same standard as they're doing when they're feeling nice and fresh at the start of the day. And I think if you've given them 30 odd calls to do, you're not going to get that. Well, so I think that becomes a bit more of the balancing act in that sort of scheduling, route management sort of process.
But we have software that tells us the journey time, and it's plumbed in terms of our size of lawn and that sort of thing, and how long that's going to take. So we've got all that data, and we can put it all into the scheduler, and it'll come back with, right, okay, you've got 12 stops today. It's going to take you this amount of time to drive there and drive back. So we know that's all right. And you're going to produce this amount of meterage. But rarely does that ever kind of come out.
Well, you need to use a different system then, Martin.
Thank you, John. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah,
because ours does the same. And actually, when I look at, we know what time the van's going to leave or what time they should leave. We know how long it's going to take them to their first job, how long it's going to do, and we actually, on our system, we have a little sort of red line that actually tells us what time they should have finished and what time they did actually complete the job. And for seasonal treatments, it tracks really, really well.
Right. But so it's probably the input data, as usual. Is the input data has to be more accurate to get the accurate output data.
Yeah, and we spent a year. Is a long time ago now. Bless him, Richard's passed away. But Richard, we spent a year analysing all of that data. So basically, we did a whole time and motion study on seasonal treatments, and the mechanical work is more of a gut feeling based on that work, but it's not as refined, but it doesn't often not work out okay. I think the other interesting thing that I would pass comment on is that it's what do the guys do when they get back, or do they go and help each other out as a, if one's finished and one's still going, do they go and help each other out, and is that feasible? And I think that was always something in my mind, that I wanted to have them scheduled from the start of the day to the end of the day, get back, rush in, get the van ready for the next day, and off they go. But actually, what I've learnt by trying to relax on that and not doing the scheduling that I used to do, so one of my colleagues, Dave, does that now, is what I've actually noted, and I think this is personality of the people you've employed, is that when they do actually get back now, they are doing things around the unit. They're getting machines sort of checked out and fixed up. They're actually doing some on-site learning. They're doing some sort of tidying up and all that sort of stuff. So they are actually putting that time to use. Whereas I think in the past it was almost like a knock and run, because they were knackered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where it's actually, I mean, it's across the business, but particularly poignant recently has been our small works team, because they've been really busy. And for example, if we have a job that's a long way from base, they'll be doing a turfing job, maybe sort of standard turfing job that they can get done in a day, but because of the travel, they're working longer days. So it's kind of like, and that's day in, day out. Is that Pixie?
No, that's can you see?
No, could just hear the noise.
Oh, that's Flint, and he's opened the door, and the sun hasn't sort of. Can I go and shut the door, Martin? I was going to say.
Yes, I'll carry on.
Terrible.
I mean, you really need to sort this out, John. I'm disgusted with you. But no, what I was saying is, you shut the door if you need to, but I'll carry on.
I'm
talking.
just sitting in the cold now, just deliberately.
And I think,
it's not professional.
This was the point that I was trying to make, is that I don't, there's no benefit to kind of the team working so hard that it knackers them out and they can't continue to work. There's, that's not what we want to do. But equally, we know we're a service business, and we're also seasonal, so we have to make hay when the sun shines. So it's trying to get that balance. I think as we grow, it's easier to kind of like just relax off the accelerator a little. Some people might balk at that and say, no, you got to keep your foot hard to the floor. But I think for me, the people element, I take there's no gratification from wearing people out. I mean, we've both been there, right? So we've done that hard graft, and it's yeah.
Well,
There
I
we go.
think we've talked about quotes and stuff like that that's made a difference in our lives. I wouldn't want to ask any of my team to do something that I wouldn't be prepared to do. Now,
Absolutely.
that's probably different now that I'm 60 compared to being 30. But actually, part of my logic on the number of treatments we do is based around, I know when I get to sort of 2:00, if I've got 15 more calls to do, I'll be going, ugh.
Yeah.
And I don't want my staff to be going, ugh. I want them to turn up and be as informative, entertaining, delivering the quality and the standards at sort of 2:00 going, I've only got 3 or 4 more to do. And actually our job is to manage how they, to mix it up a bit, really. And that's where our roots went slightly off efficiency, because we started to put some bigger lawns onto some smaller rural days.
So this is where you and I differ from the 10x your business in 3 months, and all those kind of like our funnels will get you so many leads. That's where we differ, because as I think more important in our business are the team and the people than actually making money. Making money is a side issue of what we do, and that's having a great teams and developing them and pushing them. I think we could make more money if we were more like the 10x your business style, but I have no interest in that.
And do you think that's why we have a more, what's the technical word for this? Do you think that affects our cancellation rate? Because actually the customers feel that as well, that we're not pushing all the time for.
No, I don't think so. I think our customers probably are with us because of the kind of business we are, because we're you get the odd one and they stick out like a sore thumb. I think the customers that think everything should just be like bang 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 bang. I think their expectations are not aligned. And
I suppose where I'm coming from, Martin, is if your staff member, if Martin's working for me and he's got to finish another 5 calls before the end of the day, that person in the afternoon may pick that up. But actually, if Martin's only got 2 calls left, and they're ones that aren't massive, the same customer, if they're in having a conversation, is also going to pick that up, that actually Martin's a bit more relaxed, blah, blah, blah. He's not under pressure.
But I think that comes down to the attitude of the person that's actually doing the work. And I think that's down to their mindset as well, because that's how you look at it. If you're going to get brought down by the fact that you've got so many jobs to do, I'd be setting targets, mini targets throughout the day and going, oh yeah, I'm going to get, I'm aiming to be finished by then reasonably, and that gives me this amount of time each job, and I'd be working it like that. I don't think I'd be thinking, oh, I've got another 10 jobs to do. I'd be well aware of what I've got and how my day is likely to go, and when I'm likely to finish, and then just break it down. So I think, and therefore, and because I'm the owner of the business, my attitude is going to be the same on every job anyway. And that's kind of, I want that from my team. I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying, and I know that that's quite a natural behavior. But I would try and promote the alternative.
Yeah. Okay. Well, part of the podcast is sharing our journey to 1 million, and this might be a good conversation that people's having, isn't it?
I think
thought-provoking in their own minds.
Yeah, I mean, it might lead to thoughts. I mean, there's so much of this sort of small detail that goes on, and I think if you just some people are very focused and say, right, that's the way it is. They stick to it. There's no ambiguity, and like crack on. But we're more a work in progress, aren't we, John?
Well, I am. I'm forever changing, and actually, I have really enjoyed finding out what it's been like to be in Martin's world for the last couple of years of actually working on the business and not stuck in it. My Eating the Frog Day, it was refreshing, and I suppose I was reflecting back when I was walking yesterday in terms of, we started talking about people leaving and recruiting, and we've completed that process now. Yesterday's job was to send off all the paperwork and all that sort of stuff, and it's exciting, and actually I think we're getting better at it, and we're getting better at it because we've done more. And a bit like my neighbour said, well, you've been there before, John, you know what to do, and actually we're getting more practice at it. And I think that got me thinking about, it is my team, it is my family, but also it's Dave has been involved in that team, and that's a culture that is going to grow with him as he evolves and we grow, and his sort of new.
There's massive reward from that, isn't there?
Yeah. So there we go.
Good.
Anyway.
Good.
So you did send me a memo, Martin, last night. Was it last night or the night before?
I think it was the day before, and we've talked about nothing about that. No. It was about knowing your figures.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm just stalling then, Martin, but...
No, I was... Knowing your numbers in your business is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. And tracking them, I think, is, that's how you're going to grow, because the decisions you make in the business will have an impact on those numbers one way or the other. They're either going to go up, they're going to go down, or they're going to stay the same. It's going to do one of those three things. And you start to learn what things make the numbers go up, which is what you're trying to do, except for your debt. So I think... what numbers do you track, John? Do you have a set of KPIs that you use in your business? I mean, there's the obvious ones, which are GP, gross profit, and MP, net profit. And obviously, a lot of people, they say that revenue is vanity and profit is sanity, don't they? And I think there's a good reason for that, because your top line can be going up substantially, but if your bottom line's not going up, what's the point? And that's where your numbers come into full force, and you can see if you're spending too much on your costs, or you can see if you're not pricing correctly and you need to increase prices so you're doing the same revenue for the less work and that sort of thing. So sorry, I'll go back to my question again, John. What KPIs do you use?
We could probably be a lot better at this. Probably every business would say they could be better at this. I think for me, we're not on our P&L every day, because we just haven't got time to be on the P&L every day. We probably look at it, every week and just sort of check on. I mean, we use Xero. I think you use Xero, don't you? But your Xero, your QuickBooks, your Sage. We were forced to go down that route a few years ago by making tax digital. I think that's been rolled out for people. Every business now, isn't it? But I think I think that was a great thing for us, and we're able to sort of track it and understand more of those numbers. What I'm looking for in those numbers are any expenses that are shooting up, or not being consistent with the previous year, or not being consistent with the previous year, that I'm not expecting to be consistent with the previous year. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the key points, is that, and I think we've mentioned this before, but whatever you track, however you arrive at that figure, make sure it's always the same.
Yeah.
Or you find it the same way rather, because if you deviate from that, your figures will be all over the place and they'll become unreliable.
Yeah. So we don't employ a financial director. We're not of the size to have a financial director. But we could probably do better with a bookkeeper or whatever else. But actually, with the numbers I can sort of cobble together, then we've got them. I think for me, as we scale, that is an important thing, that I actually need to put those numbers and create those numbers into tables that my team can understand and pull them together. Because I think if they understand where they're coming from, they're going to have a lot more ownership of them. So I think that's a big challenge for me over the next sort of 6 months to do that. And also I try and think about, how do you keep it simple? There's a thing, isn't there? Keep it simple, stupid. How do you keep it simple? Where does that data come from? And I think the biggest thing that sort of turns the dial and that sort of throws a panic out is actually what we are selling. And actually we do track that every week. And in John's world, we track it, not actually, we've tracked it in John's world more by category. So in lawn care world, seasonal treatments, mechanical treatments, beneficial treatments like sort of soil improvers and stuff like that. So I can actually see where we're going on each of those categories to see if there's anything up or down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I've actually done this year is trying to keep it simple, because you can start looking at that, and I think that's where you get a bit of a false impression depending on phasing. If we have a couple of bad weeks of weather, that can throw that out tremendously. Last year we had several weeks of very dry weather. We weren't able to do some summer work that we would normally do in the summer. So, in my old corporate world, was it lost or is it rephased? And actually that work was rephased to the autumn. So you've now got to think about, how do I put that work back to where it should be? But those are numbers that you just need to understand, that was a thing that happened last year that changed what the vision sort of looked like, really. So I think that's where I then probably start to overcomplicate it. So I actually started for this year a table which basically shows the top line by week, because I thought that was interesting, that actually if we want to do £500,000, we've got to be doing £10,000 a week. So I wanted to see, where we were each week, because that's a great barometer for people to look at. So I've actually done a chart this year which actually shows what we've invoiced. And how does that compare? And I thought, as I did get the memo, Martin, I thought I'd better get up really early and just add some more data to that, which was that I thought in the week it'd be a really good idea to actually compare it to last year. So that's what I did. That's what I did this morning. That's why I was up early this morning. Well, I did it. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I ate that frog.
I've got a few points there. I mean, you say you're not the size of financial director. In the same way as we've talked about mentors, you can also buy in financial directors sort of part-time or on an ad hoc basis. We did that in early 2025. And the reasoning behind that was that I knew my business, I knew my figures, I know where we're at. But the issue I had is that I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so we hired in a financial director to look over the health of our business, someone who'd had experience in growing business, and gave us a health check and kind of like gave us some pointers on what we were doing, because that was my fear, is that what should I expect going forward? Is there any information that I can glean from someone to make that journey a bit smoother? It turns out that there wasn't a great deal. And the things that we had wanted to keep an eye on, we were doing right with. So And then I think also your 10,000 a week point is really good, because I think that's exactly what you do. If we've talked about the BHAGs and everything. If your BHAG is a financial target and you say, I want to get there, right? That's how say for example, it's £100,000. Someone just starting out. I want to get to £100,000. Well, what does that look like? What do I have to do each month to get to that? Right. So then, what do I need to do each week? Right. What do I need to do each day? And then how do I generate that money? How many customers do I have to serve to generate that money per day? And you can have a top boundary, a bottom boundary, and an average, and that then, as soon as you start breaking it down into those smaller parts, you can see how achievable it is. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it, and it's something we do too.
Can I sort of build on that then for the listener who's scaling their business or thinking about scaling their business? At the start of the year, we sort of set this sort of target and shared it with the team. You do think, oh my gosh, that is a big number, and are we going to do that? And actually, does that number become demotivating and not motivating? But it's actually quite interesting then when you start looking at what you've got booked, and we are seasonal. I think I wonder if most service businesses, Martin, I wonder if they have a season. But for us, we certainly do. And it's interesting to go, well, let's not just look at the weekly budget, but actually let's look at what the cumulative budget is and what we've achieved. Yeah. Because I think then it becomes more motivational. And actually what I'm finding sort of 10, 12 weeks into our sort of financial sort of year is actually, it is achievable. And actually it's exciting, and it's about understanding that you might not hit it each week, but the weeks you don't hit it, there's weeks that you are going to exceed it and you start to catch up. So would you like to have a big reveal?
Well, there's a what you're doing, what if you like, well, what you're doing is excellent, in my opinion, because I think, like you say, a million quid is, I mean, it's not. It's all about your perspective, right? If you're turning over 100,000 quid, million quid is massive. If you're turning over 2 million quid, a million quid's not much. But the fact of the matter is that when you're discussing those figures, whatever they are, the more you discuss them and more you look at how you're going to get to them, the more real they become.
Yeah.
And it's that perspective on what you're doing. And I think that's why, for me, I don't want to be caught, my targets are already moving for years ahead, even though I'm still focused on achieving what we're going to do this year. And I think other people feel that, and I think they also want that challenge. They want to be, my team want to get to 1 million. I feel it. I feel that they want to do it. It's about us doing everything as a team and achieving as a team. Like, I can't do 1 million on my own.
No,
and neither can they.
I think in our business, and I've used this as a training line, really, but knowledge is confidence and confidence is sales. And I've used it as a training line in terms of, if you go and stand in front of a customer and cough and splutter and don't understand what scarification...
Bit like you've been doing
bit
all
like
podcasts.
I'm doing a podcast, yeah. Quality podcast. It's called Two Blokes, Our Journey to 1 Million.
It's not going to be at all annoying for anyone when I can't edit that out, is it?
With John coughing and spluttering. Well, excuse me.
What was that, John? Just trying to make you laugh now. Is that helping?
Yeah, it's a great deal. Yeah. I've forgotten what I was going to say now, Martin. It was brilliant as well.
It was something about sales and confidence.
Sales and confidence. So if you're asking a technician to talk to somebody about a product or a service, and they don't have the knowledge and they don't have the confidence, the person you're trying to sell it to, guide to, is probably not going to take it up.
They're going to pick up on it.
Yeah. But actually, I'm now thinking about these numbers as being, and your journey to 1 million and my journey to where we're going, it is about knowledge and confidence. And people, if people in the team think, God, we'd never do that. We'd never do 10,000 a week. It's January. But actually, when they start to see, well, actually, we're doing this much consistently each week during the busy times, and actually, we're not just on target, we're above target for that period to date. They're going to get the confidence so that next year, when you're looking for 700,000 or 600,000, whatever it is, or you're looking for your 1.5 million, they're going to have the confidence that actually, yeah, as long as we do all this, it's gonna work. And that's going to be a massive big boost for all of our mental um, confidence, ability, trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, and that was why I took really seriously when I've been setting the targets in the past. I want the guys to get to their targets. They've got bonuses on getting to targets, and sometimes they've missed them just by a small amount, but they haven't received their bonus for that because, as Jim Mentor says, that's just careless. If you're that close, that's careless, and I think he's right. And I think but being able to prove that you can get to those targets is really important because that's when the belief starts.
Yeah.
So it's really important on how you get to them and how you manage them, to kind of take the team with you. And I really enjoy that part, and I know the team do, and they'll be hugely satisfied when we get to the big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, like I say to them, it's like they can actually put into figures, or something they can put on a CV that's actually worth something. That you were part of a team that helped. They can go into their own individual figures in their areas, obviously, and they can say, we prevented attrition by this much, and I'm happy to give them those kind of figures, so they can, if they did decide to leave and move on, they can track how well they've done, and it can be proved, which only helps them in the future as well.
That's a good question.
That's pretty much what this podcast is based on. So if you want to, John, yeah. I'm not sure I've got the answer, but go on.
Do your guys have a list of accounts that they are responsible then, that are attributed to them?
They have an area.
They have an area.
They have an area, and we try to keep their customers the same each round. Well, certainly each round it's easier to. With renovation, it tends to, we get a bit cross contamination, if you like. But yeah, we try to make them responsible for those customers.
So that's something that we haven't done. So we haven't. We do allocate calls to a technician, but we've never actually allocated a budget to that technician and his calls,
right,
or her calls.
Yeah.
So, and do you find that works well?
Well, I think it gives the technicians more responsibility.
Yeah.
So part of their targets this year are it's reviews, referrals, attrition, and sales.
And I think where it probably helps is that if, like us, we're going for a group target this year, because my thought behind that is that everybody, they have an individual sort of target, a bonus structure they can work on, but they have a group target that we should all do. Because I was just thinking that's everybody in the business, from the person that answers the phone to the person that does the initial quote to the person that goes out and does the survey. But actually, you could look at breaking that down into an individual target, because lawn technician A may do an outstanding job, but lawn technician F does a rubbish job and actually brings A and B and C down.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've done that. So last year we had a bonus pot based on revenue alone for the business.
Yeah.
And there were people who contributed more than others. But we paid out equally. And but that's because we had that target, and that was the key for us, that we wanted to prove that we could get there, and we did.
Yeah.
this year it's based on individual performance. We have the main target, revenue target, but there are criteria for that bonus being unlocked at each point. So yeah.
Oh, well, that's more work for me to do then in the next sort of 6 months, isn't it?
Well,
thank you, Martin. It's been a pleasure.
I like to help, John.
Massive help.
Wonder what you're going to say then. And I think that just about rounds it up for today, doesn't it? So, do you want to take us out?
I can. Not as eloquently as you. It brought us in, but yes. So here we are, two ordinary blokes in business. We're not experts. We're not preaching. It's just honest reflection about our 20 years of trying to grow a business and growing businesses well. So if the podcast has been of help and of interest, that's brilliant. Please share it with friends, family, other sort of podcasts.
Victims.
I don't know how that works. But if you've got any questions, please drop us a question at questions@twoblokes.co.uk. And from Martin and myself, we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.